All right. Welcome everybody to the very first episode of Bunch of a new podcast. I'm thinking I'm going to call it Coffee Conversations. I'm not sure though. Um, I like coffee. Yeah, I got mine too. In my
Mhm.
Yeti mug that I
Yeah,
got about 9 years ago that my kids bedazzled with car stuff. Yeah.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
The best.
So I'm toying with the name Coffee Conversations and then some kind of a tagline that has full disclosure. Because I want to talk about anything and everything with laying it all out on the table. So I am here with Heather Gill. How long have we known each other, Heather?
Gosh, for a while. Probably 6 years at least,
Yeah,
maybe
six or
seven.
7 years.
Yeah.
And we've worked together on a bunch of deals. She uses my TCs, and she's a very, very high caliber agent with high standards. And she offered to be on the podcast, and she got the lucky slot number one. So
And
here
now
we are. Yeah, yeah.
we
All
need
right.
to like, break the bottle against the ship, right?
Heck yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's good.
Get this maiden on the voyage. All right, so tell people a little bit about yourself. How long have you been in the industry?
Sure, yeah, yeah. Again, thanks for having me. This is exciting. I've been in the industry for 10 years. I started out as an investor first, and then got licensed a couple of years later. So I've been licensed for about 8 years.
Awesome. And you work, is it only in Texas?
Yeah, I mean, I'm licensed here in the great state of Texas. I work in Dallas, Fort Worth primarily, but I do work with international buyers, so I have that, and I have a lot of connections internationally as well.
Awesome. And you're primarily residential resale, correct?
Yeah,
Okay. And what brokerage are you with?
I'm with EXP Realty.
Okay, awesome. Um, so we have known each other for a long time. We have had great conversations about all sorts of different things over the years.
Yep.
As you have watched my journey in recovery and real estate, transaction management, and all of that kind of stuff. And I know we share a lot of similar opinions on stuff, although we've never really sat and talked about it. But so I want to ask you a few things. First of all, what is your opinion right now on the real estate industry? What's going on with the real estate industry in terms of the market itself,
Hmm.
where buyers and sellers are headed, and the standard itself in the industry? What are some of your thoughts on that? I know that's so,
Ah, can of
specific.
worms. Let's dig right in. I love it. Great question. Goodness, my clients sometimes ask me, "Where's the market going?" And I said, if I had a crystal ball, I'd be sitting on a beach somewhere. Like I'd be doing something. I love what I do, but you know what I'm saying. The market has shifted quite a bit. So I was a newer agent when COVID happened. I'd only had my license since about 2018, so I had a couple of years of a normal market, and then everything changed. And when that happened, I was showing buyers, going home, writing 3 or 4 offers as fast as I could because it was multiple offers and it was all due by 10 o'clock or whatever the agent made up, right? Because it was madness. And so I cut my teeth real well during COVID because you just had to be really fast on your feet. You had to take care of your clients. So it was a whole thing. So now we're moving back to a more normalized market. And so the question you're asking is, how do I see things going? Well, when you had the market heat up as much as it did, I feel like you had people that saw an opportunity and said, I've wanted to try this real estate thing, so I think I'm going to go get my license.
Hmm.
So we had a bunch of new people come into the market right when it got fever pitch hot. Because it was. I mean, you literally put a sign in the yard and it sells the next day and you make buku's money and it goes forever asking. I mean, come on, anybody can sell a house in that market. And so we had a bunch of people flood the market. A lot of things went down. And then, of course, the market started to shift. And then they realized, oh, I might need like 6 months of expenses because who knows what's coming around the corner. I mean, like legit when you're in a commission based business, right? So I feel like a lot of those, like, let's try it out, those people are gone now. And I think it's good. I think it's good because people thought that this was fast, easy money. They're now not doing it anymore because you have to have staying power. You have to really pay attention to your reputation. You have to show up in a way that really supports your clients. And like now that we're in this more normalized market, you have to have your skills honed and ready to go. And you have to be willing to just work with whatever comes up next. So I feel like that's where we are as realtors, you know? And the ones that are really there that have the staying power are the ones that take care of their clients, the ones that do pay attention to their transactions, and the ones that are, you know, living with integrity and making it happen for everybody.
Yeah, man, that's it was like that in COVID. It was like that. I mean, I remember, because I mean, I own a transaction management company, so I'm in it just like you are, just a different role. But that's what we saw. We saw people sticking a sign in a yard, and they would get 5 to 10 offers way over asking price. There was so many. Um, there was just a lot of competition going on. And then what I saw was I saw a few interesting things happen to ancillary competitors or services as well. Like the home warranties used to be on just about every single contract. During COVID, when all of that went down, home warranties were just gone.
Yeah.
No one puts them on contracts really anymore. We used to see them on literally almost every single one. Now it's like 1 out of 10 to 15.
Wow. Okay. Makes sense. Yeah, I mean, because when it got that competitive, like when I was writing a lot of buyers contracts at that time, I was thinking of anything and everything I could to give my clients an advantage because my people weren't necessarily coming in with you know mattresses full of cash. You know, they were financed. They only had so much money in their pocket, and it's like, well, how do we? So we do a very short inspection period. Maybe no,
Yep. Well, they
maybe
did.
no
Even
more.
you're right. Option periods used to be like 10 to 15 days, and now they're around 7. And during that time, they were 3 to 5. And then we saw title policies change from seller to buyer,
Yeah.
and then the home warranty was removed, and a lot of that stuff has stayed like that after all of that settled down. So that's pretty interesting. I do think you're right. I think a lot of people got in during that time, and I think they made a little bit of money during that time, and now I think a lot of those people are gone. Although it seems like from what I've seen, it's kind of cyclical. I see that happen in trends. It starts to go again, and then there'll be a mass exodus, and then they come back in, and then there's a mass exodus. So that kind of seems like it happens in cycles.
I could see that. Yeah.
So, okay, so how in the last 10 years, because I've been in this for almost 26 years now,
Okay, you've seen a few things.
I've seen a few things, but in the 10 years that you've been in this, what have you seen, if anything, with the standard in the industry in terms of the education of agents, the knowledge that they have of contracts and procedures, standards in brokerages, things like that? What have you seen? By the way, Heather and I have not pre-scripted or talked about any of this. This is all on the fly.
I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way. It's great. Gosh, it's I've worked with brand new agents who've needed a little bit of coaching along the way, and I was on the other side of the equation, but I'm like, let me help you out a little bit here. And then I've also worked with agents that have been in real estate for a really long time, and like it just runs the gamut. You have some agents that are new and they know they're new and they're okay, like taking a little bit of like, okay, well, she just gave me a tidbit. Thank you for that, right? And then you have people that have been in the real estate game for a long time and they know everything and just look out world, here I come, and I'm the you know, I'm the standard by everything. I'm like, okay, come on now. Like there's a happy medium here, you know, and I love working with agents that are serious about helping their clients because I'm representing my person, they're representing theirs, and I get that. But at the same time, I don't have to like be, you know, like an egoist in the transaction. I don't have to like drive things. You know what I'm saying?
I
And I
do.
don't like it when people drive me either. So, like, I don't know. I've experienced all of it. And how has it changed over the years? I don't know. People are just people. I don't know if there's been some huge trend. I mean, again, like with COVID, I think there were quite a few new people. So I saw more of that. Um, Again, the people that I'm experiencing now, like in the past 12 to 14 months, have been more serious, have been more seasoned. They're not ego. They're not like pushing, pushing, pushing. They're not rude. They understand we got to like work together to make it happen. I love that. So I'm feeling like maybe that's coming back around a little bit more.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I do see we deal with that same kind of a thing when you call an agent and say suggest something. Like let's say, for example, something that we see frequently is we will get a contract and we'll send an email about the survey and 6C1 will be checked off and it'll have 6C1, but it'll have the buyer checked off on the box.
Okay.
We won't receive the survey and the notarized T47, which is a part of that paragraph. And we'll send an email off to the title and include the listing agent and say, hey, would you please order a survey? It's a seller expense. And they come back with, no, it isn't. It's checked off buyer expense. And we will politely explain, I understand that, but that was contingent on the seller providing the survey in T47, which they did not, which means it's automatically a seller expense. I've been doing this for 805 years and I don't need some transaction manager telling me my job and
Uh,
we get that kind of stuff
yeah.
pretty frequently. Then there are other seasoned agents who, you're right, they will say, you know what? I didn't read that paragraph. I didn't know that. And it kind of shocks me because they're honest about it. The newer agents, they tend to put it back on somebody else. That's what we are experiencing. They'll say, "Well, my broker didn't tell me that. Well, my TC didn't handle that. Well, somebody didn't handle that even though it's their job." I'm I'm wondering though if you're so let me just tell you what we see and you can tell me if you think I'm full of crap or not because I'm totally fine if I'm full of crap.
All right.
I feel like we are seeing brokerages begin to give everything to the agents in order to recruit agents to their brokerage.
Okay.
So they literally offer a service for every single thing that the agent should be doing. And this isn't just one or two brokerages, it is nearly all of them.
Really?
Nearly all of them. And
Okay.
I know because I talked to the leaders of these brokerages.
Okay.
And so, what we are experiencing is agents who are far less knowledgeable than
Mm,
even 2 or 3 years ago
okay.
because they did not have to go through those trial periods of learning how to write contracts,
Okay.
learning how to write documents, learning how to negotiate those terms with their clients,
Hmm.
um, even learning how to do a transaction. So,
Okay.
for example, we'll have someone come to us who's never done a transaction and they're about to get their first one and they'll say, we want to use you. And we will tell them it would be a really good idea for you to do your first 2 or 3 transactions so you know what you're doing and so you appreciate what we're doing for you.
Right. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. No, I cut my teeth doing my own transactions, and I initially sucked at some things, and my first transaction,
We all do.
Lord, heaven forbid, my poor clients, they stuck with me. They so appreciated me. I flubbed a few things, but we got through it. It's just how it goes, we live and we learn. We take our knocks, and that's okay. But yeah, I think it's very interesting. I'm not aware, like, I've been with EXP since I started. So, I mean, I came in, it wasn't that big of a brokerage. Now we're really big. So I don't know this trend that you're talking about, but I think it's very interesting that brokers are
Well,
just
for
doing it all for them.
EXP, well, think about this. So EXP, when you first started, did not have in-house transaction management, right?
Yeah,
Now they do.
yeah.
So that's one of those trends that I'm talking about. Um, EXP, when you first got in, did not offer a broker compliance service. Now they do.
Yeah,
And so
a lot.
those are those kind of trends that I'm talking about because what agents are doing, they're not like you. They didn't have to cut their teeth on the real nuts and bolts of all of this. They didn't have to go through those learning experiences and those humblings and all of those kinds of things that we did. They're walking into someone doing everything for them, and now they have that available to them. Do you see what I'm saying?
Okay. I mean, good for them, I guess. But
Yeah.
like you're saying, I agree. Like um, repetition's the mother of mastery, isn't that what Tony Robbins
Mhm.
says? So like when you do it enough, you start to get good at it, and it becomes more natural in what you're doing. I am a mentor with my broker, and I am mentoring a guy right now, and he's doing all the work himself. And I'm really proud of him, and he's done a great job. And I recently went and comped a house with him, and he did a good job at doing that. Like he's really taken the initiative to do it. But I'm wondering, like, are we dealing with a difference also with like maybe ages? Because the guy I'm mentoring is a little bit older. He's in retirement, right?
Well, maybe. I mean, I don't know. Maybe older people would want to do it I guess the old school way. I don't know. But here's so let me ask you this because you mentor people, so this is a great way to deal with this. When you're mentoring someone, would you rather them know how to do comps or have them use a service who does the comps for them? Would you rather them know how to do the transaction or have someone automatically do the transaction for them? Would you want them to know how to prep a contract and negotiate those terms or just have someone do it for them so that now you have someone who's everything is done for them? Which would you want them to do?
Yeah, I mean, here's the problem, Dustin, right? So you're an agent, you're in one of these agencies and they're doing all this for you. Well, like now you're beholden to the agency because they do it all and you don't know how to do any of it, right? I mean, that's
Oh,
keep somebody, which I think is I mean, some people maybe they don't care. Maybe they give up half of their commission for that and they're busy and they don't really care that much. But like if you're going to be truly an independent agent and you want to carve your own niche and go your own direction and set your own sails in the sea of life, then like you have to learn that. You have to do that yourself. I mean, really.
I agree.
Yeah.
And so okay, so that's one point that now you're beholden to the now you're dependent. You're not interdependent or independent. Now you're dependent. I think, and tell me if I'm wrong. I really don't mind if you disagree with me. I won't debate anybody on here. I'll just say, okay, we disagree. Do you also think that when you begin to offer that for agents, now what you have are agents who are unable to do the things that they need and are contracted with their buyer or seller to do for them.
Yeah, I mean, so what happens when all of a sudden it's a holiday weekend and no one's available to help them do that? And their buyers are over here going, "We want to freaking offer on this house. We love this house. When are we going to do that?" Well, it's going to be Tuesday, and it's like Friday afternoon, and I'm like, that doesn't serve your client very well, and it makes you look bad, honestly.
Yes, and I'm not even kidding. That's the kind of stuff we're seeing on a daily basis. Agents are reaching out to us and saying, "Well, I want someone who writes my contracts, does my buyer docs, does my listing docs, does my transactions, and then does this at the end, and I want to go to closing." And we're telling them, I mean, I understand that. It sounds beautiful, but you're paid to do this part, and we're the transaction manager. That means once it's executed, and they will literally tell us, "Well, I don't have time for that. That's not why I got into this industry." And from my perspective, I'm thinking, well, but what are you getting paid your 3% for, or whatever the percent is? I mean, it's normally three. It still is, no matter what anybody says,
I don't know. I try to negotiate as much as possible, but that's just me.
which is great, and I think you should. I think you should. But that's an interesting point because what if an agent has every single thing done for them, all their docs, all their contracts, all the contract to close, all the listing data entry, everything's uploaded into showing time, broker compliance, everything. What are they getting paid to do?
Then they're just the face of the organism or the mechanism, right? They just end up being the face for that transaction. I mean, I know there are agents that run small teams or run like independent teams, and they have different people in the group doing different things. And I get it that you share the load. But like the thing that I think, the thing about that model that I don't like as much is that I'm not just dealing with a transaction, I'm dealing with a person who's in transition. And like, I need to be I need to be in their world. You know what I'm saying? Like I
Yes.
had a client a couple of years ago. She was selling her house. They were doing renovations. They did a lot of renovations without asking me. I could have saved the money, but they just did it, which is fine. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of getting the house ready to go on the market, the husband was found to have like Alzheimer's, and it was a very progressive version of it. So like it then became this, okay, well let's pivot, okay, because now yes, we're getting the house ready to sell, and yes, this is important for your next step, but like also like we got to help like stabilize everything for him
Yeah.
because now things are changing in his brain and he's not realizing some of the things he was aware of before. Like that's a huge thing for somebody. So if you're
Yeah.
just a
That's tough.
transactional, yeah, if you're a transactional agent, you're just like bam 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 bam, can you really be in the moment with your client like that? I
See,
mean,
that is beautiful. We have team meetings with my team because I have 25 transaction managers now. And so we have bi-weekly meetings, and I kid you not, they will comment on this podcast. I just talked to them last week about not being transactional.
mm,
This is a relational business. It always has been and it always will be. Um, and I think you're right. If the only thing they're doing is procuring the buyer or seller at the very beginning and then collecting something at the very end, how do you stay in that person's life and help them walk through that? Or if something like you pointed out comes along that's hard, how do you jump into the middle of that and begin to navigate through all of that?
yeah. I mean, and some agents, they just don't run their business that way. That's not who they are. I mean, and there's room enough in the industry for all types of people. And some sellers and some buyers are just very much it's very cut and dry.
ID personalities like me.
And it's just like cut and dry. This is what we need. Go get it done for us, right? And there is room enough in the industry for people that are just that's how they go and that's how they do and that's how they operate. Whatever, God bless them. That's how they work, right? I tend to be more in the minutia with my clients. I just do. Now I have good boundaries. I don't take calls after 8 p.m. Like unless it's super like it would have to be like a house on fire, or like one of my clients, her house got hit by a car. That was fun. We had to take the listing offline and deal with that. You know what I'm saying? Like things happen because it's called life and living.
Yeah.
Like how can I show up in the professionalism and help them in their moment when life is happening for them and to them? Because I mean that's just the reality of it.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think, here's the interesting thing because I understand, I really do. I'm a businessman. I own my company and I grew it from nothing. So I understand why that model I described is attractive to agents because heck, of course I would like to just only do lead generation and then go collect a check with a few minor things in between. I understand why that's attractive. Where it gets lopsided from my perspective is for a transaction manager who's being paid roughly $400. That's the going rate for TC work, 400 to 500. They're getting paid that much and doing 90 to 95% of the work. And then the agent is getting paid, I mean, easily somewhere around 3,000 or more on a $100,000 home minus taxes, which we have to pay as well. But if you look at the pay, it becomes very lopsided for the amount of work being done. And then I also think it perpetuates and propels bad habits in our industry, which then trickle down to all sorts of stuff. Because I want to get into the faith thing with you as well, because I know that we've had lots of discussions on faith and how that impacts our business. But before we do that, because we're at 25 minutes, I promise I'm gonna try and keep this to an hour.
You're good.
Um,
No worries.
so, have you seen any decline or no decline in lending and title as well?
I think we've seen a little bit of a contraction with those industries too, because, title, I've seen a couple of title companies close up here. A couple of them kind of absorb other smaller, agencies and things like that. Um, I haven't really had a title agency partnership that did a lot of things for me, right? I mean, I've had some that would do a little bit here and there, but I know some agents that get flyers produced and like they'll do mailings and stuff like that. I've got one that I've started to work with recently for like some data stuff, right? So I have a little bit of a partnership there. Um, every title company is just different, I've worked with some that were just like got it done and it was an excellent experience, and I've had some that I'm like calling and I'm like, what's going on over there, y'all? So I mean, I've seen that too. And for lenders, I mean, if I'm on the buyer side, I've got a handful of people that I would recommend. I do my best to give them business because I know that they're integrous, they get it done on time, they're easy to reach, they'll keep us informed, like they handle their stuff, they're good at what they do. And so when I get a buyer coming in with their own lender, I'm like, okay, well, I mean, they can do whatever they want because it's a free country. I'm not going to make them change their lender. But I'm always kind of just hold my breath a little bit. Okay, like, do they know what they're doing? So case in point, I have a house I'm selling not too far from here, and I'm the listing agent. And I don't know why the lender thought this was a condominium. It's a duplex. Very clearly a duplex. And I'm most like super concerned about that. I'm like, and then the title company is like, well, the lender's saying that this is a condominium and we need this document signed. And I'm like, here's the realist tax paperwork showing that it's a duplex. I'm like, why are you guys even questioning if this is a condo? It was really weird. So I'm like, I'm hoping and praying this one closes. Because, like, we're still in the middle of it, but I mean, like, it is what it is. I mean, and what do you do about it? But
Yeah.
I would be curious because I know there is discussion about transaction coordinators right now, and they're talking about changing some of the laws and and I know you've been talking about this on social. And this is your jam, this is your business, this is what you've been doing. And I appreciate this conversation because you're right. I mean, the industry as a whole, we need to get better. But I'd love to hear your perspective with what you're hearing about the changes with transaction coordinators. And then before you jump into that, just to say this too. If you have a small team and you have like 2 or 3 people and you've got one person dedicated to writing your offers, taking care of your admin, taking care of your paperwork, and y'all are a cohesive team and y'all are splitting things that way, that's one thing altogether. But like to try to hire a transaction coordinator like your company to do like all this extra work for that agent, that isn't right for sure. So you mentioned that a minute ago and I wanted to just circle back to that.
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you from a infrastructure and logistic perspective, it doesn't make sense really for anybody to be doing all of that because, well, if you're producing a lot, because it's impossible. I mean, one person cannot be in control of writing offers, sending those offers, tracking those offers, sending those offers to the other agent when they come back in, then getting it out to all parties, doing the contract to close, doing the listing data entry. They can't do all of that and handle more than 10 to 15 deals a month. It's impossible.
Yeah, it was.
And then what you have is you have someone who's typically on a base salary and they're paid bonuses per closed transaction. That's typically how it works. Well, the reason those people have so much turnover with is because those people get burnt out. They
Yeah.
can't handle all of that. And that's why my company is so different because my systems and checklists make it possible for all of my TCs to close a very high volume of deals because we refuse to lower our standards and compromise what we do and don't do. Again, I understand the model and I see some benefits to it. I just think it needs to be regulated and I think there need to be some standards in place, which there are not right now. And so you asked me, and I don't want to take too much time with this, but I will tell you the TC world is a hot topic at Trek, and I'm
Yeah.
glad.
Yeah.
I've been saying for years something needs to happen because I've been watching what's been going on with TCs for years. I've been watching TCs begin to do more and more and more and more and more until I'm like, well, what's the agent doing? And we're still getting paid this much and they're still getting paid this much. It's very lopsided. So Trek is they're concerned about licensed TCs at a particular brokerage doing transactions for other brokerages,
Mm,
because now there's a conflict there. And I understand why. That TC has private information about the transaction, they have private information about the client, they have all sorts of private information, and
yeah.
they potentially could share that. And I will tell you, in the TC world, that kind of stuff happens. They also have access to databases with no agreements, and now you've got this database that this TC has, and all of a sudden 5 months later this TC decides to not do TC stuff anymore and they want to go back into full production,
Mm,
and they've had access to your database that whole time.
wow. Yeah.
So there's a lot going on right now, and I'm super glad. I have reached out to Trek. I've been in conversations. I offered my company up as for them to put a microscope on and say, here's what you're doing and what you're not doing. Um, I have also talked with Tar and the head of certifications and something else at compliance or something at Tar. I've
Okay.
talked with them about coming up with the certification course for TCs that they have to pass in order to be a licensed TC.
That'd be good right
And
there.
I think contracts and ethics are two things that they should absolutely have to take and pass to be a TC, because I don't understand how you can be a TC and not understand the ins and outs of contracts and ethics. I mean, that's scary. Uh, and then the other thing is TCs who are bivocational.
Mm,
Because let's say you hire me to be your transaction manager, and you say, here's what I'm paying you X amount of dollars to do, these are your duties, and I say, okay, cool. And one of those things is you're going to write amendments for me, no problem. So you call me at 3 o'clock on today and say, hey Dustin, it's 3 o'clock, our option ends at 5. I need you to do an option extension, so that my buyer's earnest money is protected. Heather, I'm out with clients right now, I can't
mm,
do it. Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'll do it then.
yeah.
That doesn't work,
Right.
Or I tell you, well, I'm out at a listing appointment, or I'm not going to be able to process that contract till tomorrow morning because I'm working with buyers for the rest of the day. So there's a lot going on right now, and I'm going to be real interested to see what happens. From what I've been told, it's going to happen at the broker level first, and I already know a couple of big brokers. Um, I will not say people. I know a couple of huge brokers and the heads of these brokers who are going to implement some of this stuff at a broker level. They are.
Okay.
And it'll happen at the state level first. But what we're seeing is a lot of talk about legislation happening,
Mm,
which
okay.
I think is great. I think that's great because, I mean, you said something really critical that during COVID, a whole mass of people came in and began thinking they could just do this. Then they realized they couldn't and they left. Well, the problem for you is now the damage is done. Now there's a whole lot of people out there, potentials and buyers and sellers, who have been screwed by those part timers who
Yeah.
thought this was a good side gig.
Yeah.
And they put a bad taste in those people's mouth for realtors in general. And now you're having to fight that when you go on a listing appointment or to work with a buyer. In the same vein, everybody's getting into TC stuff because they think it's a good side gig. I'm gonna make a little extra money on the side while I do some TC work, and it's so involved.
It is. Oh, for sure. I keep my TC pretty busy.
Yeah, you do.
But she's fantastic and I love her to death and she does such a great job. So yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, all right. So switching gears, you and I have had lots of conversations about faith, and you watched my journey, and everybody knows I was in Christianity for a long time. Went to seminary, very well educated in all the isms and ologies, but I left that belief system 7 years ago. Officially left. I was already out of it a little before that, but and I wrote a book called God in the Box: My Journey of Undoctrination. There are a lot of people leaving that faith, and it's called deconstruction. That's the real popular term. And you and I connected on a spiritual level, because just because I'm not that does not mean I am atheist. That's the big jump everybody makes. Well, I don't know how you can be an atheist, and I'm like, I'm not an atheist at all.
Right.
I am incredibly spiritual, but that evolves over time. The more I learn, the more I let go of things, the more I'm researching. But I know you've been through a lot with that. So, tell us a little bit about what your journey was.
Sure. Yeah. No, I appreciate that. Golly. I mean, I tell people that I've left top heavy authoritative religious beliefs behind because ultimately that's what I found, right? So I mean, I kind of grew up in the church in a way. My grandparents would take us to their little missionary Baptist church in town. I had some really fond memories as a kid and really fond memories in junior high. And gosh, I just loved the community aspect of church back then. And then, when I was in college, same kind of thing. Just really loved the community. I just am a people person, so that always really appealed to me. And then I've always had a very passionate heart about things and very spiritually sensitive, been like that my whole life. And so, yeah, all those things really appealed to me. And then I went to Bible college as well and thought I was going to be a worship pastor, did all this stuff. And then ultimately just found myself feeling very hollow about the whole thing. And I remember quite distinctly after I got out of Bible college, I was on a stage helping to facilitate like revival services. I was part of the worship team. And after a couple of weeks of being on the stage and just looking out to see what was going on in the congregation, it just really hit me. I'm like, we have the same song and dance every night. And it was getting people to an emotional state so that they would be in this presence of mind or whatever to move to the next step, which was usually, a tithe or an offering or coming for the next night or bringing a friend or whatever it was that, the pastor and the staff wanted to see happen. Exactly, exactly. And so when I saw it, it just like the blinders came off, and I'm like, I don't know if I can support this way anymore. And that led me down the journey of leaving and going through some very difficult times around that, and really having to ask the question, so what do I believe now? Because like it can be a little scary when you're in a place that tells you here's what you need to have to go to heaven, and here's how you need to believe to get there, and here's what you need to do to get there, and like there's all these like rules and
And if
regulations.
you don't, here's
Yeah,
what happens if you
I
don't.
know. Oh man, it's tough to reconsider that, right? And so, I mean, I got to the point where I got really depressed around it. I was drinking a lot around it. Like it just really crashed my world at the point that it came to a head. And thank God, a good friend of mine had become a licensed counselor, so she took me on as a client, and I had to go through some pretty extensive therapy to decondition myself of certain things. And
Uh,
through that process, I found out that I mean, I had a pretty strong codependent kind of relationship on what I thought God was. I had to deconstruct that and let go of those things. And, here I am years later, still walking through that and reconsidering some of those things. But I'm not an atheist either, like you. I mean, I would not say that's not where I ended up. I'm still very spiritual. I still feel like God is there. I still feel like I have a connection. It just looks a lot different than it used to, and quite frankly, it's a lot more peaceful being where I'm at now.
yeah, because I mean, I'll be honest with you. I mean, especially having been in this now for 26 years, I've seen so much destruction and divorce and pain and addiction and suicide. And I've seen so much happen. And I know it happens all over, but I'm in this industry. And so that's where I've seen it happen. And so I understand that faith plays a big role for people in this, and I think it should. I think I think being void of faith is or let me rephrase that. I think being void of belief void of belief can be detrimental to people because it's a big part of your business, isn't it?
So, uh, in the way of like getting clients that are faith people of faith,
No, 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 no. I don't think you're like that. I know some people who will only work with people like of their belief system, and I think that's a terrible way to be. I've had people who have pulled their business from me when they find out I'm no longer a Christian, which I find to be so ironic because really what they're doing is they're pulling business from a TC of mine who is a Christian. So they're really hurting someone of their own kind, and really they're hurting their own kind anyway because we're all human beings.
yeah, right.
So I don't think that, but you having a belief system, you believing in something impacts your business, your as a
Sure.
businesswoman, as a business owner, doesn't it impact that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I could tell you, I could talk for hours on just the different miracles that have occurred in my life. And I know it wasn't because I was smart or clever or made it happen on my own. Case in point, like, so I'm an author, speaker, and a coach as well. And I'm writing a book about this journey. It's called Journey to Your Sacred Heart. It's about coming back to the heart of who you are after narcissistic abusive relationships and or leaving like a top heavy religious system, right? And something that just recently happened. Like I was like, okay, I need to sit down and write my book. Okay, I know this, but it's also like summer and real estate is like moving, but like it's not moving as fast as I want it to for me. And so I was getting a little nervous, right? I'm like, okay, I know I'm doing the right things and I've got some pipeline and I'm like moving things forward, but like I also need to write my book. And so I just felt like this last weekend, I was like, okay, I don't have any major commitments. I'm going to just sit down and write my book for the weekend. I'm going to take my time. I spent like 10 hours just kind of plowing through, right? And it was great and it was exactly where I needed to be. But like in the back of my head, this little voice was like, well, what about your income? Because like this is my job. It's my career, right? This is the only income coming in is when I close a deal. And I was getting a little nervous. So come Monday, I got up and started doing my work. And by the time I got to 2 p.m., I was so completely exhausted because I'd spent so much time like doing this creative output. Like I couldn't do anything else. So I finally gave up. I'm like, okay, fine. I got home, got on the couch with my dogs, watched Ted Lasso for like 5 hours. I didn't do anything. Like I ate a good dinner. I just chilled out. I'm like, you know what? I don't have to output all the freaking time. I can rest. And I'm telling you, Dustin, as soon as I did that, a couple of hours later, I got a phone call. Hey, I found you on Google. I need to sell a house in Carrollton. I want to work with you. Cool. I mean, I didn't make that happen. I just listened to myself, right? And then a little bit later, a friend of mine called and said, "Hey, I've got two sellers I'm talking to." She splits her time between Colorado and Texas, right? She's like, "I need you in Texas to work with these sellers. Let me get it arranged for you." And I'm like, okay. So I picked up probably like three or four pieces of business just because I was quiet enough and listened to myself. Okay, I can rest. It's going to be okay. And like, it just worked out. It was so great.
I think that's awesome. Yeah, that being connected, being in the present moment,
Yeah.
not living in the future or the past, and not worrying about the intangibles that you have no control over anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we're in a hot political climate. How has your because I know some things that you believe, and I think I agree. I think it's pretty awesome. My son is walking by in a lab coat. I don't know why I'm not going to ask.
All right.
Anyway, so how has your faith journey shifted that?
Oh, gosh, right? So when I saw what I saw on the stage and I'm like, I can't get behind this anymore. I have to step away. It wasn't too much longer after that that I had to start asking the question, okay, well, why do I believe what I believe politically? Like, I mean, you grow up just kind of accepting certain things. Like I mean, unless you need to
Automatic
pressure,
indoctrination.
yeah, unless you need to pressure test it, you don't. I mean, you just kind of accept things as they are. But I started looking around and I'm like, well, the Republicans really are not small government. They haven't been governing that way in a really long time. And I'm like, I don't get this. They don't seem to be matching up with what they're talking about. And I had a good friend that I was working with at the time who was a libertarian. So we just started talking about that. And so, I mean, I'm no longer a Republican. I've never really been supportive of the Democrats. I want a smaller government. I don't want them in my business all the time. So I hang out with the libertarians now. But yeah, this political environment is bananas because you're either Team A or TB. Like
And
you're either
that's
one
it.
or the other. And I'm like, give me a break. This isn't sports. This isn't like, okay, go Cowboys or whatever. We're talking about like people governing us. And like,
Yes.
for
And
hire,
all Republicans are Christians and all Democrats are demons and
just
all
insane.
Republicans are, it's just nuts.
Crazy.
So you mentioned a book. Talk about that.
Sure. Yeah, so I'm writing a book called Journey to Your Sacred Heart. And as I mentioned, it's all about coming back to who you are. It's mostly written to women, but it's going to include part of my memoir. It'll have an allegory built into it, and then it'll have some coaching that I've been developing intertwined within it. So it's going to be a very interesting book. I'm excited to write it and get it out there in the world. It's going to be good.
That's exciting. Writing a book is a um, daunting but very therapeutic endeavor.
Right? Yeah, because you wrote yours. Now, is the book that you wrote the only one you've written so far?
I
On the
just finished. We're doing final edits on my second book right now, and it's much bigger and goes much more into detail about things, but it's written in the same way. It's a very non-aggressive conversational style, almost like a Socratic dialogue. But yeah, I'm excited about it. But I will tell you, it was very therapeutic to write that thing
yeah.
because it's a lot of stuff you're getting out and you have to process through those thoughts as you're getting them out. Otherwise, you sound really stupid.
I mean, I totally relatable. As I've been writing this one and revisiting my past, it's been very interesting, an interesting journey back through those seasons of life.
Yeah, so you say it's written primarily to women. How come?
So, I imagine at some point in the future, I will probably have something that would be more inclusive. But when it comes to deconstructing, again, I'm just using overly authoritative religious systems. I feel like women have more to deconstruct in different ways than men do, because you got to think about how the system is structured.
Very patriarchal.
Yeah, men are the top of the chain. I mean, you guys do whatever, right? I mean, like whatever. It's just how it's set up. It's very patriarchal, like you're saying. But we've got to deal with like, okay, well, where do we fit into the structure, and like who's over us, and is the pastor over us, is the husband over us? Like, why who do I submit to this Like, it just becomes like this whole additional ball of wax. So like as I was coming out of that structure for myself, I was feeling way more liberal. I was feeling way more like,
By
okay, well,
default, yeah.
I mean, like I don't have to submit to a man or a pastor or be under somebody's covering. I don't feel like any of that is legit, and I've been able to move past that. But I mean, it took a minute to like peel those layers off.
Yeah.
And again, when you grow up hearing like, well, this means heaven and this means hell, and you start peeling those layers away, it can get a little like, ooh, like what does that really mean for me?
Well, yeah. And I mean, even, a woman's place is in the home. And I understand that that institution has had to evolve and they don't really teach much of that anymore unless you're in a Presbyterian church or the Reformed community or those more antiquated dying out versions of that. They don't really preach that anymore. But that is still kind of a vestige of that belief system is a woman's place is in the home. She might be able to go sell fine linens on the side and things like that, but she can't be a career woman. And so I would imagine that there's a lot of identity issues that come about too.
Yeah, and I don't hear a lot of women who are going through deconstruction take it in a measured way. like, through the years, I've been so blessed. There's so many podcasts, so many books, so many different things that have been so helpful to me as I've been on that journey. And I'm so grateful for them, but they're mostly male voices and they're mostly male perspectives. And a good chunk of it, at least back in the day when I was really in it back in 2010, 11, 12, and so on and so forth. I mean, a lot of it was very like Bible based, like the Bible at 50 paces. Okay, well, here's what the scripture really says, and like this kind of thing. And that was good for a season, but like, I want to bring forward a book that talks about my life experience and doesn't get mired down into, okay, let's go read, dissect the Bible, because I don't want to do that. I mean, I want people to come in. I want them to get in their bodies about it, because I feel like we're that's where we live, is in our bodies, and we, a lot of the things are so much here when they really should be.
Yes.
So that's really more of the perspective that I'm bringing this from, is like, how can we really live from here with it?
I love that. When you're done with that, I'm gonna have to have you back on and we'll talk just about the book
Sure.
and advertise that because I love that kind of stuff. I'm really reading a lot of Alan Watts right now. I
Okay.
love Alan Watts and really a lot of philosophy. I'm reading some Carl Sagan too, but
Okay.
really just reading a lot of um, heart connection, present moment, people focused philosophy,
Mm.
and and just listening to what my gut and my heart say about things rather than what so much this says.
Yeah.
Because it's very easy to put things analytically into a matrix. And
Mm.
then I think what happens when I do that is I detach from the human side. And when I connect to it from a heart and a gut level, then I'm thinking about the person. And it's much easier for me to then consider, rather than firing an email back off or a text off to somebody, thinking, what is that person going through right now? I have no idea. They may have just lost somebody in their life. Maybe they can't pay their bills. Maybe they're struggling with addiction like I did. Maybe they're this, maybe they're that. And I'm much more able to connect with them on a human level rather than putting everything through that analytical intellect.
Yeah. One thing that has helped me a lot in the past couple of years, because when my divorce happened a few years ago, it just really wrecked me. I had so much I had to like process and overcome through that. But I remember 2 years ago, I called a friend who does energy work. She does like Reiki and like other
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
And I called her and I said, well, will Reiki heal a broken heart? Because like I just couldn't get over it. I mean, it was just a lot. And she said, no, but let's do a mushroom ceremony. And I've been writing about this frequently. I'm on post number 2 of 6. So if anybody wanted to read about that, it's on Substack. It's under Sovereign and Sacred. But my mushroom ceremony was absolutely life changing for me.
Like
And
micro dose or macro dose?
it was a hero's dose. It was a
Yep.
full on
Okay.
ceremony. It was
Yeah.
overnight, special diet ahead of time, like journaling, counseling, coaching beforehand. Like the whole night was dedicated to it. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it was the most impactful thing I think I've ever done.
Yeah. I've heard a lot about that.
Yeah.
Heard a lot
Yeah. So
about it.
if you want to read about it, I've got it up on Substack right now.
Yeah, I'll check it out. I really will because I've been researching some of that stuff just for trauma work and healing and all of that kind of stuff. Well, Heather, thank you. We're already at 53 minutes. It went by super fast.
It did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Thanks
Dustin,
for coming on. I would love to have you on again.
sure. Absolutely. And I'm so glad you started this. You talked about it a while back and you're like, I'm going to do a podcast. I'm like, this guy needs to do a podcast. So thanks for letting me be your first one on. That's such a pleasure. And I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. So I don't know don't have high expectations, Heather. I don't know how this
It's
thing's going to look
going to
because
be
I'm
great.
going to try and put some cool visuals and stuff on it, but it may just come out just us talking. So whatever. All right. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Sure thing.
Bye bye.